Okay. So we're gonna get started. If this is your first WCVI Chicago event, thank you for coming. And those of you who are joining us again, welcome back. Today we have another panel for you guys for our mentorship series about Step 1 prep, strategies, survival, and what exactly matters for VIR. We have an amazing panel of M3s who are excited to share with you all their experience with Step 1, and I'll let them introduce themselves soon. But my name is Ryan Yu. I'm a third year med student at Rush, and I'll be the host and moderator of today's event. I want to just give a brief introduction of the WCVIS Chicago for those of you who are new. So this is a student-run organization with a mission to foster early education and exposure to the field of vascular and interventional radiology. Our aim is to connect surgically minded trainees in Chicago with a deep interest in minimally invasive approaches to patient care. We seek to clarify that this field is intended for trainees interested solely in surgery and hands-on patient care, rather than those interested in image interpretation. So I'm just gonna plug this link tree. I'll leave this up for a little bit for you guys to take a photo to gain access to our like membership form and mentorship form and like our YouTube channel, which we have 3 videos for. But now I will introduce our panelists. So first I'll let Matt introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I'm a M3 at Rush. I was born and raised in Tinley Park, Illinois, so South Side suburb, pretty close to the Chicagoland area. I went to Illinois Wesleyan University in Bloomington, Illinois, and I was a biology major there. I took one gap year before starting med school, and then I enjoyed golfing. That photo is actually from this past weekend at Topgolf. EDM music, watching the Cubs and Bears, and then eating at different Chicago restaurants.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for joining us today. Next, we'll introduce Asher.
Hey everyone, my name's Asher. I'm an M3. I go to Chicago Medical School. I was born here in Chicago, moved out to the western suburbs, like Downers Grove area, when I was younger. I went to Benedictine University in Lisle. For hobbies, enjoy weightlifting, cooking, reading, photography. I pasted some of the pictures I took during my M1, M2 years. Here we had it was really cool. I really took advantage of um, the pass fail uh, thing, M1, M2, and I really kind of went crazy with my extracurriculars. And we started this like photography club, and it was really fun. We did like outings, like we went to different like farms and just cool places to take photos. That middle picture is like on campus, and then that picture of the moon, that's like the blue moon that we had like I guess. I don't know why it's called Blue Moon, but it's Blue Moon is on from M1 year. And then he asked for camera, any camera really. I just like borrowed my brother's like um digital camera and went crazy. But yeah, it was really fun.
Cool. And certainly, but not least, Shane.
Hey everyone, my name is Shane Martin. I'm an M3 at Rush Medical College, along with Matt and Ryan. Originally from Westchester, New York. I usually tell people Westchester because no one ever really knows where my town is, but right outside the city, pretty much. I went to Quinnipiac University, where I majored in biology, minored in chemistry. After that, took 2 gap years, worked in ortho and at an endocrinology specialist. Some of my hobbies, I guess, are high rocks, weightlifting, Muay Thai, kickboxing, snowboarding, and if you know me, I always have my beats in, so music is probably one of my favorite things to listen to. Um, just looking at these pictures, so the one farthest left, that's actually at Mountain Creek in New Jersey. Not sure if we have anyone familiar with the East Coast. The middle is in Utah at Snowbird, one of my favorite mountains that I've been to. And then far right is a training session right after Muay Thai. So yeah, just a little bit about me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for your introductions. Next, we'll transition to the Q&A session, which will be the bulk of our meeting today. I have a couple questions written up, but if the audience has any questions, feel free to raise your hand and I'll call on you, or you can just simply write your question in the chat. Okay. So the first question I have is, what did your average study day look like during dedicated or even before dedicated? Anyone can answer first.
I guess I can go first. Yeah. Um, I guess it depends on exactly when. So before dedicated, I tried to just start off slow and like go over content. Um, I was not an Anki user, M1, M2. So I started off with like the resources everyone told everyone to start with. So like going through Sketchy, going through Pathoma. Um, so my study day was mostly trying to catch up on those. And then I used that beginning period before dedicated. So I actually started, and I would say over a winter break. And I would spend some time doing just a couple videos or like a folder of videos. So like all of antiarrhythmics or all of gram positives or something like that. Um, and then I would also do UWorld, but like slower. So I would do like a block and then like really study it. And then later on, I would say I just try to ramp up like questions, gave up on doing new content and just try to get like my stamina up and reviewing less and less, just like, writing down like what I needed to review and then not reviewing question by question. So stuff like that.
Yeah, I would say when I first started studying for STEP, this was like before dedicated started. I tried to kind of tackle the organ systems that were high yield. One of the most important ones is like the sex and repro kind of stuff. So I was really trying to like hone in on that stuff. Same with cardio, like it's like one of those things that I just always forget. So I just wanted to brush up on the physio related stuff to it and like the drugs, because those are very highly tested. But then once I got into my dedicated period, I like, at least for Rush, we have like they pair you up with a blueprint tutor. And so they were able to kind of like design a study plan for me that I felt worked. And that primarily involved like doing UWorld questions for the majority of the day. And then towards the end of the day, not try to like overdo it, like, but like probably like a little bit before dinner time, try to do like 1 to 2 hours of Anki. And that would be related to like the UWorld questions that I was able to do. Because there's like a add-on for Anki that you're able to like find the Anki cards that relate to the questions that you do. And so it would primarily be 60 to 80 questions I would do during those days, and then whatever Anki associated with it in the night.
Yeah, for me, it was pretty similar to both Matthew and Asher. I started with Pathoma, I want to say like about a month before dedicated because I knew pathology would probably be like the highest yield and also like the most difficult for me. So I tried just like doing a couple videos a night. After I would do the videos, I would do the Anki cards. I also got the book and kind of like read through and just highlighted as I would go. Once I got into dedicated, it was pretty much just like UWorld questions. So I would start with like, I want to say I was doing like about 20 in the beginning, and then like by the end, it was about like 80 questions a day. So I would do the questions, review them, use the Anki tool that Matt just briefly described, add the cards, do the cards, and then like whatever I still didn't get, I would just kind of like look up a video or do like a ChatGPT search just to like get quick facts about it. And then on weekends, once I got closer to my date, I would do the NBME practice exams. I would try to take about like 1.5 to 2 times the amount of time it took me to do the exam to actually like thoroughly review it. And then whatever I wouldn't get, or if I was like having a hard time with the topic, just watch a few videos on it and do the Anki cards.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks for like showing us the day in the life of dedicated for all of you. So I know you guys mentioned a couple like resources you guys looked into for pre-dedicated. Do you guys have like a top three resource? Because I know there's so many out there. I feel like with all this like overload of information, you kind of want to consolidate in the with the time that you have. So do you guys have a top three or your favorites?
I would definitely say Pathoma. That was a blessing for me. Pathoma, Sketchy, and UWorld. I think if you treat UWorld like a learning tool rather than like trying to, I guess, like get as high as percentage as possible, it's definitely like pretty beneficial. So for me, like a lot of my learning came from UWorld and Pathoma. And yes, I did do all the chapters.
Yeah, I think I second that for sure. One thing I would add on would be Anki for me. Personally, I used it. I even just started using it during studying for STEP. I actually had never used it my first 2 years, but it helped a lot, and it was a good resource. For when it comes to Pathoma chapters, I actually just did 1 through 5, and that helped a decent amount. But um, I think just honestly, just seeing what you're deficient at and really tackling those is probably the best thing. I think I remember like the coagulation cascade was like the worst thing like imaginable for me. So I watched those like 3 times.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think Pathoma, like people will say it's like a pretty old book, but honestly, like it's not like I used to be like, oh, does it even matter? But like it's not like medicine changed in like the last 10 years, like in terms of like really what they is tested and this and that for like the step one stuff. And so I would recommend Pathoma chapters 1 through 5, I've heard is like the most high yield. They keep on adding more chapters, honestly, by the time you guys take it. For the M1s, it will probably be like chapters 1 through 7 for all we know. But I also recommend trying to see if you like watching videos. If you're one that likes to see everything on one slide, I definitely recommend boot camp. Whereas if you like kind of like presentation kind of style where it's like a couple bullet points each slide, then like boards and beyond is the way to go. Um, I was gonna bring up Melman too. I have like two more to add, and then Melman's one of them. But first aid, for those that might not know this, I found out this way later, but they actually have like a first aid book series, kind of like a Harry Potter book of sorts, where there's different books. It's not just the main book that everyone thinks about. And so there's different books associated with that where they actually go in depth and like have paragraph kind of styles, whereas the first aid book's kind of like a bullet point kind of thing. And then Melman too. People have different thoughts about Melman because he does include stuff that is on like tested material for the practice exams, but like do with that what you will. I honestly think it's still beneficial to just look through it, and if it inflates your score for practice exams, like I mean, you'll probably be able to tell. But if it's like an insane amount, then maybe stray away from it until like the first couple of weeks before your test.
Yeah, to add on to that, I feel like um, for Melman, yeah, even though it might inflate your score, I mean, you're still like learning it. I mean, every resource out there is going to be based off of whatever practice exams are like available. So you just have to like really just try to run through as much content as possible. And I think a big plus of Melman is that I didn't use it a lot, but from what friends have told me is like he really hammers down like the basics really well. So just getting like your reps in with the basics, Melman might be a good idea, especially now that he has like a test bank available. I don't think that was available when we took step, but yeah.
All right, great. Yeah, you guys mentioned a lot of great resources, especially to like start off with M1 summer if you really wanted to. So I was just going back to what Shane mentioned about taking NBME, and like, how did you guys incorporate NBMEs with also doing UWorld, and like, yeah, let's just start with that. Like, did you guys like do UWorld first and NBMEs, or do you do like UWorld and NBMEs in between, or like, what did your schedule look like?
Off the top of my head, I'm gonna say I started with UWorld first, and then I think my second half, because we get 8 weeks, I think towards the second half is when I started incorporating an MBME every weekend per se. So I would do the MBME probably like Saturday, and then Sunday I would spend like all my time, like the whole day pretty much just going over it.
Yeah, I think that's key. What you're saying is like when you review it, like review it well. Don't just like take it as like, you're just taking the test and you're just moving past it. I think a lot of people would just like the hard part I feel like is reviewing it. At a certain point, something doing these blocks like feel like a video game, and it feels nicer to do UWorld where it gives you like a nice little score. But really reviewing it, reviewing like the official content is gonna be the best. Like UWorld is for learning, and it's not gonna give you the feel for how they ask specific questions. No other resource is gonna do that. So don't squander them by doing them too early and doing them without giving thought to like reviewing them properly. So I did the same exact thing. I did on the weekends, spent a whole day to review it, um, and then went back and even further, just like throughout the week, I would watch videos and stuff based off of what I wrote down that I got wrong.
Yeah, I would definitely try to incorporate them as early as you can into your study period. Like I think for me, I took a long time to like get past the content review phase, and I would be like, oh, I just need to finish this one kind of like organ system, like reviewing it a little bit, and then I'll take it. And then I would just honestly push it so much like to take the practice exam. So I would honestly like make some schedule where you like have like a certain like spaced out time to take those exams, like thoroughly review them like Asher and Shane said, like probably the day after. And then one thing that's also really important is like don't get discouraged if like you've been studying for this thing. Let's say like you scored like on your second practice exam like a 66, and then like you take one like a month later and you get like a 66 again. Like don't get discouraged by it, because like it's as much a mental game as it is like a content game, like education game. So try not to let that eat you alive, because being dedicated like alone studying all day, it can kind of like your thoughts can have that effect. And then another thing is to also try to simulate it as much as you can. I'm sure Asher and Shane can even tell you, and Ryan, like this thing's a beast. Like I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Like you get like you'll probably see in the breakdown like there's like break times, but like honestly, it's just so you could catch your breath literally. Like there's really like not much break time like throughout that entire day, and your mind is gonna like thank you if you prepare for it well in advance, because like it's gonna be fatigued and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You want to prepare for it.
I'll also plug this into, I think it was like the free 120. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. But there was a practice exam that you're able to actually take at your testing center like about a week before. I definitely recommend that to everyone because, as Matt said, you want to simulate test day as much as possible. Not just like the exam itself, but like the whole check-in process, getting to the room, having to like show your ID, get patted down, all of that. Like it's added stress. And for me, if I went into it like blindly, it definitely would have like put a little block in my day. So definitely recommend that if you can.
To build off that, I would recommend, it's not for everybody, but I would recommend like studying at the time that you'd be taking the exam and getting up at the same time like every day. Like I swear for like a good month or two beforehand, I was getting up at the exact same time. I was like, eating similar stuff, you know, don't like play with the day, like it should feel like any other like study day. Um, you shouldn't like eat something weird and like, oh crap, now I have to go to the bathroom. And so I think really just try to simulate test day when it comes to every time you study. and try not to burn out. Like if you study during this study time, like take the night to rest. Like every day. Take every opportunity you can to like recuperate from every hour that you study.
Yeah, you guys mentioned actually a lot of good points. Like STEP is a huge academic component, but also the mental component is also important to deal with. So Matt, you mentioned uh, like if an NBME plateau, your score plateaus, do you guys do you guys ever experience that? And like if you did, how did you guys overcome that little hump?
Um, I can take it first if you guys want. So I actually went out of order for the NBMEs, which was probably like the worst idea or thing that I've done like during my study period. But towards the end, I want to say it was the exam right before the free 120, I actually dropped like a pretty significant amount. Granted, it was like one of the older NBMEs. But at some point you kind of got to realize that there's only so much content you can really go over and retain. If you start to plateau, or if, like for my example, if you like actually like hit a decline, you kind of just have to trust yourself, and just trust basically like your training that you did for like the last 8 weeks, and just kind of like just go into it. That's pretty much what I did. I spoke to my academic advisor. I told her like the previous scores that I was hitting, and we just came up with a plan. She was like, listen, like take the free 120. And if it truly was a decline, then you'll see it there. But if not, then there's no reason you shouldn't take it.
Yeah, to build off that, like I think try not to use any one score as like where you are. Like it's easy to get caught in that. You score once, you score really bad and it's like, oh no, like I forgot everything or I shouldn't have taken the weekend off or anything like that. But I think really just trust the process, trust that you've been learning, and use it like, I mean, any good study is not going to just take one data point and make a conclusion off of that. So really just use like your averages and like see that you've been improving, that you're doing better, and try not to judge yourself based off of like any one day, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with both of their points. And for me, I like scored very like over 70 on like one of the two of the like, early practice tests that I took, and then like the ones after that, I was kind of getting like 65 to 70 range, more closer to the 65. And so it was like a little bit scary because like you're like, oh, am I losing knowledge? Like this and that. And then also along those lines, like if you start noticing your U-World scores, like kind of like flatlining too, like don't try to like, it's like a, like it could be like all at once. That's why like the mental thing is so big, like, because like you can see like both of those kind of like assessment tools, like kind of showing you like trying to like fool you that you don't know what you actually do know and have enough info to pass. And so, yeah, I think it's a common thing among all of us that you're gonna have like kind of flatlining scores, but it's just like trusting yourself, like Shane said, trusting your knowledge. And the free 120 is a great tool to be able to know that. And then if I had a link, I would definitely send it, but I remember a lot of people in our class, they took like the free 120 like a couple days before at the testing center, and they go through the whole motions and stuff too, which is really nice, especially for how to get there. Like I think one of the toughest things is trying to find like even the testing site room, especially at the Chicago location because there's so many sites.
So we have a question from the chat. It says, what advice do you guys have for M1s? Like if you guys could go back and do it all over again, even though you guys don't want to, what would you guys change or like what would you guys do during the summer, or even the winter before dedicated?
I, I feel like I mean, if I feel like all of my friends that did Anki during their first 2 years, I feel like if they stuck with it, like, they did it over the summer and they really kept up to date with all the reviews, their study time was like a lot shorter. And I feel like just for peace of mind, just for like mental health purpose, like I would maybe consider trying to use Anki. I know it's not for everybody, Anki did help me a lot, like starting it during it. So I wouldn't say that you can't just start Anki then. But if you do Anki the first 2 years, I think it really helps. And then other than that, just really focusing on doing well on each block. That's like your foundation. And I noticed that the blocks where I was, more distracted with other things that were going on, and I, took the chance to, just score poorly on it, and I didn't study as much, like those came back to bite me later on. So just try to have a good base because you're bound to forget it. You don't need to remember everything when you start studying for step one, but when you relearning it, it's going to be so much quicker for sure.
Yeah, I'll actually second that, Asher. I think a big component of step one is really getting a good foundation during your pre-clerkship years. So really focus on that. And as for like starting before winter break, I think it's a great idea. You just don't want to overwhelm yourself where now it becomes like a burden to your pre-clerkship grades and then you burn out too easily, too quickly during dedicated. So if you are going to start something, start really, really slow and kind of like ease into it. Your main priority right now should be passing your pre-clerkship blocks.
Yeah, I agree with both of their points. I think you want to like find some like way to like study for it, but like not overwhelm yourself. One of those that I like wish I had known and did as an M1 and M2, early M2 year would be like there is like this deck called the Duke Pathoma deck, and it's basically just like the Pathoma like on king cards, but like super condensed and like just correlating with like the book content. And so I think that was honestly a really good resource. I found that kind of later into my dedicated. And so there's a lot less cards as well, which made it a lot more doable to like just be able to brush up on stuff. And especially since pathology is like so high yield, it's the highest yield discipline for the exam. So yeah, I would recommend that.
Okay, awesome. The next question, I guess, like, what did you, um, sorry, I guess, like, how did you deal with like burnout and like panic during dedicated? And like just going back to the mental health aspect of this time period, what did you guys do to kind of overcome that burnout and panic?
Matt, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I could do it the first one. Yeah, I would say try to, I think Asher mentioned it, like after you take a practice exam, like take the whole day off. Like I initially like would not do that and like it was so bad. Like it would just cause a ripple effect if I like studied the right after or like a couple hours after taking a practice exam and then like I would just kind of feel like that fatigue and stuff throughout the rest of the following days. And I would even recommend so much to say like the day after, like take a half day or something. Like try to incorporate half days as well, just because studying for so many hours in a day, like nonstop, like it just puts a big mental toll on you. And then I guess another thing, if you're in a warm area during that dedicated period, like go outside, enjoy the weather. Even if you're in the cold, try to like at least just go outside, just get the sun on you or something. Um, just because it will have a lot more benefit for you mentally.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything Matt said. I think one big thing that I tried to do was maintain my hobbies. And with that being said, like you're not gonna have, 2 hours or even like an hour to like do whatever you like to do, like you previously did before dedicated. But even if it's like 30 minutes or like 10 minutes of just like doing something, it's great for just like mental relaxation and just to get your mind off things for a little. So yeah, I definitely recommend just like maintaining whatever hobby you can to like your best ability.
Yeah. And don't get so absorbed that you completely ignore everything in your life. I know I wanted to, and it felt like right. It felt like right being like, oh no, I can't do this because I have to study. But I feel like you're not going to forget everything if even if you take a weekend off, maybe not right before the exam, but like if you're 2 months out, taking a weekend off to like, don't take it too seriously. You're gonna pass. You put in the time if you'll know if you put in the time. So, take a weekend off, go on that trip, don't, completely shut yourself off to stuff that's going on because uh it's only gonna make you get back to studying with, just like more motivation and feeling better. So for sure, don't put your life on pause.
Yeah, no, you guys make great points about trying to maintain your hobbies. So what is a question that I had too is like what kind of defined the moment that kind of let you guys have that confidence to take that exam?
Yeah.
Um, I think the defining moment for me, as I said, like I had that period where my scores actually declined, but the free 120, like I scored pretty well on that. And I was just like, okay, like this is pretty solid and I feel confident going into the exam. So that was like towards the end of like dedicated, probably like about a week or so out before my actual date.
Yeah, I think people throw around different like scores and stuff. Sometimes people will be like, if you're getting like over 70s or over 65s, then you're ready. I mean, I know people that scored like 61 like once and took it and passed. But, I wouldn't do that personally, but I think just know where you're at if you feel confident. I mean, you're never gonna feel 100%, but I think I took it personally. I set myself like a marker of like, oh, I need to score twice above 70. And then I was like, okay, I'll be ready. But I know sometimes I know some advisors at my school were like, if you get two above 65, you're good. You can take advantage of the pass fail for sure. But I would also like if you have time, you know, build up the base because some of this content comes back. So, do as best as you can. So if you have a lot of time and you want to study more, try to get higher and higher scores. But I think it's a good rule of thumb to be like 65s if you get multiple scores above 65s for the most part. If you're sure that you're not gonna like tweak on the actual exam day for sure.
Yeah, in terms of like feeling prepared for the exam, so I guess a little background, I didn't pass my first try of the step one exam, so I have I guess like a good perspective in terms of that because I know kind of what it's like to be on the opposite end of like a test result when it comes to that exam. But I think I was for my second time, I felt ready because one thing that I knew from the first attempt is that I was kind of trying to study like almost like memorizing rather than understanding. I think I just wasn't using Anki correctly, honestly. Because I just like I'm not good with flashcards to be honest. And so I for the second time tried to like really have a build a good foundation in terms of understanding the content and especially like with what the test writers are wanting me to know. Because these MBME practice exams, a lot of them have a lot of similarities, and there's a lot of like interplay between the content that they test on. And so I think I was able to have a confidence. Like it wasn't really the score, because honestly, the score is between my initial time taking the exam and then second repeat exam were pretty similar. Like really wasn't much difference. But I think in terms of the content, I just felt like I was understanding it a lot better and could like verbalize it and like talk about it more. Whereas before I was just kind of memorizing just like facts.
Yeah, Matt, you mentioned a couple of good things about like how the practice MBMEs kind of mimicked like concepts on the real exam. Did you feel like or I guess everyone, do you guys feel like the practice exams were kind of very representative of the actual test day exam, or were they just in terms of like question lanes, content, and stuff like that?
Yes.
Um,
Oh wait,
no, please.
gotcha.
No,
I
Matt,
was
you're
gonna say the content is similar. they will throw like some haymakers in there. Like you'll be like, what is this? That's just the way it is. You just have to kind of just not freak out. Because there's also 280 questions. I believe 70 or 80 are experimental. So like the odds are in your favor. Like you just need to like maintain composure throughout the exam because I think that's also what got me like when I took my first attempt. Regarding question stem length though, Shane or Asher might say something different, but I felt like the actual test was like there was like legit pages, man. Like it just felt like it was so much reading and
It felt like a Cars passage from MCAT.
yeah.
It,
Absolutely
it was like
insane.
it was insane. I feel like there's a some kind of like arms race that every year it just gets longer and longer and longer, as people's scores go up because they're studying better or something. And I feel like you get tired. My eyes were getting tired and like dry from just reading. So that's the biggest thing is for sure get in there knowing that one thing, like, yeah, it's going to be long stems for sure. I think that's what a lot of people that I knew that took the test said that. And then also those experimentals, they'll get you. And it'll make you feel like when you go on break, you'll feel like horrible because you're like, oh, I got this whole block wrong. But they're all probably just like questions that'll never be used again and they won't count towards your score. At least you have to like gaslight yourself and pretend like all the ones you felt bad about were experimentals for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with the length of the stems. It didn't really compare to the NVMEs in my experience. I just felt like they were so much longer and just like a little bit more like convoluted. I feel like the NVMe stems are a little bit more like straightforward where you can kind of see where they're going with things. Whereas with step one, it was just like all over the place. So yeah, definitely walk in there, not expecting it to be the same length as the NVMEs.
And what Asher said too about like going on break times through the during the exam and being like kind of like oh like fixating over like some probably questions that probably are experimental like my first time taking the exam I like would like because you could use your phone on breaks I would like look up like oh like was this right and then I'd be like oh crap like it wasn't and like looking back after the fact, I was like, why did I even do that? Because like it just made me like in a bad mood the rest of the day and kind of like made me second guess myself and second guess questions even more so. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is do not look at your phone for like looking up questions. Like maybe just doom scroll on Instagram or something like that to get your mind off of it.
So there's a couple questions in the chat just going back to like UWorld prep and like content. So first question is how did you guys start off with UWorld and did you start doing it with organ system or did you do con as you did content review? And what point did you start doing mixed blocks?
So I actually started off, as I said, with like 20 questions a day max, and it was all organ systems. As I progressed, I want to say probably to like fourth week, that's when I started doing mixed and really like ramped up the amount of questions per day. And I found that to be like the most significantly helpful for me.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on like what you need because I started off doing mix. I never ended up doing organ systems, but I also did separate content review by watching like videos, which was in organ systems. So just depends on what you need. If you're using like UWorld as your like primary uh, content review, then probably good to do organ system based. If not, then doing mixed is fine as well.
Oh, I'll also say something. Like don't get really like caught up in the tutored versus untutored time versus like untimed. For me, I pretty much did everything untimed, untutor mode. That's just because it worked for me personally. Whereas like I have friends that did everything like timed and off tutor mode. So just find what works for you. I don't really think there's any benefit in like picking one or the other. Just make sure it works for you.
Yeah, I think that the like practicing like your timing and stuff, that's going to come from when you take like the full length exams and stuff. So save it for that. Try to use UWorld. In my opinion, use UWorld as like a learning tool. and
Yep.
not as like a marker of like how fast you can do stuff or what percentages are you getting, stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I would say it's just up to your discretion on like whether you want to do mixed review or just organ system review for U roadblocks. And yeah, I would not get too hung up with like the percentages and stuff. Even some U road questions, they'll ask about like such a specific thing about something. Like there was so many biochem stuff that I was like, I don't even know. To this day, I have like never really thoroughly reviewed the glycolysis, gluconeogenesis, all those different pathways, just because I'm like, I just need like the certain high yield stuff. And so don't get caught up on like, oh, like it tested on this thing. I need to like go back and review this entire thing about this pathway or something like that. So yeah, like they said, just use it as a learning tool to kind of get a gauge on like certain things.
Yeah. And for biochem, I don't know if anyone else uses, but like Dirty Medicine, I just like did that and called it a day. He's really short and he's like has great YouTube videos. And it's like funny.
No, yeah, I'm gonna echo Asher's like Dirty Medicine was like huge too. Very like short videos, but like high yield content. Um, another question in the chat is, do you guys have any thoughts on the Pepper deck for Sketchy Micro or Farm versus the On King decks?
I'm not too familiar with Pepper Deck. I used OnKing for Sketchy Micro and Sketchy Farm.
I can hit on Pepper Deck because I actually ended up using it. Um, for Pepper Deck, I would if you've never done Anki before, I think it's a good resource to hit because it helps you go through all of Sketchy if you've never done it before, like really quickly. Um, I think if if I were to give advice to someone starting M1 on what deck to do, I wouldn't say do the Pepper deck because it's not like it doesn't include a lot of information that might be important for your like initial exams, like block exams. But for Step, I felt like it went over. It would like instead of like 50 cards for a sketchy video, it'd be like 10 cards, and it would be like more in depth, but it helps you like front load the information, and that way you can get started with Anki without, getting um, bogged down by like 300, 400 reviews a day or something like that. So I think it's really helpful if you've never done Anki before, especially for those decks.
Yeah, I did the sketchy or the On King sketchy micro and farm decks. But like Asher said, like the pepper decks, similar to the Duke Pathoma Anki deck, it's a lot less um cards, and if you're really crunched for time, definitely recommend just to get like an overview of the stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. I think just going back to what Shane mentioned about like everyone's like learning is different. So I think if that's something that works for you, use it. It might not work for us, but if you try it out, you love it, and you're producing great scores, continue with it. Um,
Yeah, that's a big thing. I think use the time that you have, not in like dedicated, but a little bit before. Maybe it's something you can also start doing like end of M1 or like early on M2 is like just try a bunch of different things, see what helps you. I ended up like coming back to some stuff that I knew, like I did a little bit of Anki for one block and I remember it helped a lot. So then I came back to it for Step and like Pathoma and stuff had never done before, but I knew that I really liked it, so I tried it again. So just try a bunch of different things. Try BNB if it works for you. That's great. Try Melman, try all this stuff. But I think I would focus at the end to just try to do a couple things like really thoroughly for sure.
awesome. Yeah. Thank you. The next question is, even though step one is now pass fail, how do you guys feel this has mattered like in your clerkships or even like prepping for step two?
Um, yeah, no, I think it really dictates a lot, honestly, on how you do on like step two. I remember when I was initially like getting into dedicated, my academic advisor, she was like, however much time you put into step one, it'll also be reflected in step two. And now that I'm in clerkship and like just doing like shelf exams, it really does come back. So I think Asher said it earlier, like you want to push your best foot forward with step one because it definitely a lot of the content you'll see it again for sure. It just might be presented differently, but you'll see it again.
Yeah. And also, I think it really helped me get my study habits in order. And I was able to use the momentum I had from step one, studying for step one, to start studying for my shelf exams. And I was able to like become like a regular Anki person, even though I'd never done that before. So it's definitely a good time to like build a solid foundation for sure.
Yeah, I agree with both of what Shane and Asher said. I do I will want to say like if your school does have like I think it's like CNB, it's not NBME, but it's like something like CBMEs or something like
CVSSA,
that.
is that it?
Maybe something like that. But I was gonna say like if it's like for Rush at least where like they give their own exams for like the preclinical years and so it was like a bit of a learning curve, at least I felt, to like study for step one. And that, like, your work that you do for that is like very influential for like the clinical years, just because Rush doesn't give the shelf exams. It's like the MBME style exams. So I would say if you're in a similar situation to that, like definitely put in the work for how to study for like MBME style exams. And it will just only set you up for future success for shelves and then step two.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for your advice, guys. So with like 8 minutes left in this meeting, I just want to open up to the audience if you guys have any last minute questions or if the panelists have any last minute remarks that they want to mention. Okay, there's a question in the chat. How long was your dedicated period and how much time did you think it required?
So for ours at Rush, it's 8 weeks. For me, as I said, like the first like beginning 4 weeks or first half was really like just like passive stuff, like just doing 20 questions a day, like kind of just reviewing them, watching videos. But like the last 4 weeks are where things like really picked up. So I think ideally anywhere from like 4 to 6 weeks should be pretty solid if you're actually like develop a good study strategy and get into the flow of things going straight into it.
Yeah, I think I do agree 4 to 6 weeks. I would say even like 4 to 8 weeks. But keep in mind the more weeks that you study, the more of a mental toll it puts on you. So the more like you start to like think about it more. So definitely like try to take it as soon as you can, like if you're feeling confident. Um, and the practice exams will show you that. So um, don't try to like overkill it. Just try to like you just have to know enough to pass and you have to feel confident enough in that info.
For sure, try to tailor it based off of like how your studying is going because and it seems really basic, but in the moment, you do compare yourself to like every single person that's like taking this test. So you're constantly talking about it. All your friends at school are talking about it. They're all talking about what they're getting, and then when they're gonna take their exam, and everyone's like, if someone's taking it early, they're like, you're crazy. You can't be taking it early. And so when you're taking it late, you feel if you're taking it later than your friends, then you feel like you're taking it way too late. But take it when you feel ready. I have an M2 that reached out to me for advice, and on the CBSE. He scored like an 80%. He's like, I think I'm gonna push my test back. Everyone keeps telling me I'm crazy for taking it this early. And I'm like, no. It's like that's like no, you should take your test like right now, like really tailor it based off of like where you're at. Try not to compare yourself to other people because I mean they're not taking the test, you are. So
I would even stay away from social media. Someone who was an upperclassman told me that, and they were like, you're gonna see people like post their scores or be like on vacation and you'll be like, what? And it'll be like basically like midway through dedicated or something and you're still like in the library. So like I would even like just limit your social media use just so you can not be the comparing yourself to other people and like being like, oh, I wish that was me right now. And just feeling because it's just another way that you can like feel more down throughout the day.
Also, Reddit, it can be really helpful or it could be really harmful. I personally think for like step, stay away from it, stay far, because you're gonna see a lot of like unrealistic like expectations on there, and half of the things are probably not really true. So, yeah.
Yeah. And there's, don't let it consume you. Like there's Reddit threads where people will take their exam and try to brain dump like every test question they remember. Like try to just like after a block is done, forget about the block. After the test is done, enjoy your life. You know, try to. It's really just an exam. Don't let it like consume you a little too much because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to. It doesn't really correlate that well to what actually the end goal is, which is practicing as a VIR. So, um, which goes into the last question, um, which is
Yeah,
how does this
Asher,
all
yeah.
tie into VIR? Sorry for taking your job, but
No, you're good.
um, if I had to say, I would say it matters, but also doesn't matter. I mean, you want a strong base. It's important to pass in order to do well in step and then, have an easier. I think the biggest thing is the stronger you study earlier on, like during M1, M2, and you build up a good base, the more you can think about stuff that's more important because you've built up a strong base. You're not trying to like, you don't feel bad about like, there's sometimes like some topics that I didn't really study well for my first 2 years that it'll come up and I'll be like, oh crap, like I really need to go back and study this. And a lot of VIR like applying is requires a lot of extracurricular work and requires a lot of, mental energy outside of school. And the more you're like bogged down with trying to remember the basics and everything. So the better you get it down now, the better off you're going to be in the future.
Yeah, I think especially with like how you study for step one, like especially the anatomy portion, like I swear like every single time I'm in VIR shadowing, like they're always explaining like the anatomy. Like for example, like a couple days ago I did like a tips and so there's like a lot of anatomy you need to know for that. And I think just like being able to also just understand like why is the procedure being performed, like what are some alternative procedures they can do, like why did they do it this way? Being able to answer those questions similarly to how you would probably learn content while studying for different diseases and different conditions in the preclinical and clinical years really goes a long way. And you can tie that into like the stuff and diseases that you'll encounter in VIR.